Welcome to GP Bullhound's Tech Thoughts. Today's the 1st of April, and we're here with Inge, Heydorn, and Nejla-Selma for our weekly market roundup. In today's episode, they will give a market update and talk about semis, retail, and gaming. Over to them.
Let's start with the market update. The market has been quite positive in the last few weeks, but has now turned a little bit negative, really since Wednesday. So what's going on? Firstly, we have had a strong rally. And secondly, we're now getting data points for the first quarter, which is slightly negative. We start with on the retail side, we have seen a number of warnings from retailers like H&M, which was surprisingly weak, especially on the internet sales. And then remember, it's really tough comparison in Q1 with the COVID lockdown of Q1 last year. But you also had like Restoration Hardware in the US coming out with very bearish comments on the consumer. So in general, the market sentiment towards consumer electronics is turning more negative. And on top of that, TSMC chairman was out stating now that they are seeing a weaker demand on the consumer side. So PC, mobile phones. And that is not really a surprise given what we've seen on the lockdowns in China. Remember, lockdown in Shanghai, 26 million people and so on. There are major effects on distribution, but also the consumer in itself. So going over to the semiconductor side, TSMC, as I stated, was out stating now that they see some weakness or weaker demand from consumer. It's not a big worry if you look at semiconductors and capital equipment, but it's definitely something to watch. On the semiconductor side, all of the vendors are running at 100% plus, if you could, and on the semi-capital equipment, it's the same. So this is more of a breathing pause in the demand, which is probably quite good to catch up. But then the question mark is where we're heading from that. In terms of the equipment side, which we like, we see so many new factories coming on board and it's being planned. I don't think those plans are going to be stopped or changed. So I think that's fine. On the semiconductor side, we could see some more volatility. I'm not talking about the share price then, I'm talking about the demand. So that's something to a little bit closely follow here going forward. Over to Nejla on the gaming side.
Okay, so let's do a quick gaming update then. And starting off with Sony, who has revealed their next big plan. I'm sure all of you have heard of it. I think this is part of their overall plan to compete with Microsoft. This is not really Game Pass Sony edition, but I think they're clearly trying to compete with Game Pass. And the service seems fine. I personally don't believe that this service is to kind of collect even more users on their platform. But kind of rather that they want people to stop thinking that Game Pass is better than what they're offering. The question is although how the model really looks like in relation to other gaming companies. I mean, if the distribution cost disappears, what do you really get? So that's something we're definitely gonna dig into. And going over to Nintendo. Starting off with our model that's in line with the estimates, I believe that their annual forecast on hardware is going to be in line. We also saw a new announcement during the week. Nintendo share slumped around 6% in the Tokyo trading after it was announced that they're delaying the awaited Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to spring 2023. From this year's planned debut. But to be honest, it seems like the players are not super upset about it. Instead, many claims that it shows that the game is going to have a lot of care put into it and that the final product will hopefully be complete with no cut corners. And despite the Zelda delay, I mean, Nintendo has a really strong pipeline for 2022. With Inge Shooter, Splatoon 3, and 2 further Pokemon titles set to launch later in the year. And honestly, if there's a year Nintendo can afford to push Zelda out, it's definitely this year. So this is all for today and see you next week. Bye.